What one? The live.
Step into the fast lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT.
The record
Fast Lane Ed Lane on
of
Facebook,
how long it had been
Twitter,
since they had
Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to
all the way around. But from a overall perspective, I think the Jaden Daniels impact it cannot be underplayed and understated. And obviously Dan Quinn, the stability and the focus and the direction and the overall control of that football team week in and week out has been really impressive. So, yeah, I don't think anybody saw this coming at all.
Dan Quinn, you mentioned him. He's got ties to our backyard with William and Mary and now with the Washington Commanders as well. For the Dan Quinn side of things, how much has his personality been exactly what this franchise needs, seemingly slow and steady and even keel, given, well, the last 2.5 decades were hardly that?
Well, I think you're talking about a guy that has obviously firsthand coaching experience, head coaching experience with the Atlanta Falcons, and he's coached in a Super Bowl. I mean, the guy has experience of getting a team, probably if you go back and did the research, probably came into a similar kind of environment in Atlanta, an underachieving team for several years. He comes in and pumps some life into the organization and turns it around pretty quickly, got into a Super Bowl. Then obviously things fell off the years following the Super Bowl, and that put him back in the defensive coordinator position with the Cowboys. And now to get this opportunity, I think he probably learned an awful lot from that first experience, things that he did really well and things that maybe he could do a little differently this time around. And I think that experience is probably paying off. And obviously the players respond very well to him. That's always been the case. He's always been a guy that the players have loved playing for. And I think he knows how to put his staff together. That's obviously a very important factor as well. And they're all on the same page and clicking. And, he's found a way to keep this team, very steady throughout the course of the season. They've had some disappointments, but not nearly as many as you would have expected. But this is a team now that when they get into the critical moments of a ball game, in a close ball game, they really believe 100% they're going to win. I mean, Jaden Daniels has proven he's that guy that if there's time on the clock, excuse me, he's going to find a way to get the points necessary to either win the game or tie the game, give his team a chance. And once a team starts believing that they can do that in those situations, that's a very, very dangerous, powerful combination that not many teams have.
It's amazing to see the impact of Jaden Daniels and the belief that has come from his performance, particularly in the clutch over the course of this entire season. Somebody who's had a front row seat to see some of those games with Compass Media Networks is Steve Burerlein, and he's with us here in the fast lane. Steve, you mentioned Jaden Daniels in the fourth quarter, but it's throughout the game, it seems. Understanding that they don't have to be the most explosive offense. They've had a lot of these games where they have 10-plus play drives, 7+ minutes eaten off the clock, and they can go the full length of the field, some of the 90-plus yards. What does that say about Jaden Daniels understanding what this team is and what they're not?
Well, I think really it has a lot more to do, very simply, with who he is, what he is. He's a guy that, and I said this, you can go back and check me out, check out my Twitter comments back then. Maybe, I don't know if it was X back then, but it was Twitter back then. That's what I still call it. But I've always felt very strongly that Jaden Daniels was going to be that guy. And I'd be lying if I said I thought he was going to accomplish everything that he's accomplished this year. But I felt that he would be the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. I had really zero doubt in my mind that if he stayed healthy and if he was given the opportunity to play through the normal rookie struggles in the early part of their first year, that he would, by the end of the season, be that guy. What surprised me is that how easily he seems to have made the transition, because any of us that have played the position know that it's just not that easy. It's not as easy as he's making it look. And you made a great comment there talking about the consistency they've had with 10+ play drives all year long. They've been one of the very best in the NFL, and that's just not a common characteristic of a first-year quarterback. Most defensive coordinators are looking at a rookie quarterback and saying, if we get him in a situation where we're facing several third down situations, he's going to make a mistake at some point. There's no way that he's going to be able to continually execute and come through and play at a high level over the course of extended drives throughout the course of a game. But he's done it consistently from week one. And, obviously he has the ability athletically to make plays and score very quickly. But I think the most impressive thing is the way that he's been able to sit back in the pocket, go through his reads, stay patient, not try to force things, take the check down if nothing's there up the field, or make a play with his feet, which we all know he does extremely well. That to me has been the most important aspect of it, and the part that I think really deserves to be recognized.
You often hear Steve Burerlein right here on VTR in Sports because he's part of Compass Media Network's coverage of college football. We'll get to that momentarily. He's got a bit of a vested interest in the Monday Night Football college championship game, as well as NFL games for Compass Media Networks. But you referenced Jaden Daniels and the traits he's shown. Steve, you've been a quarterback at the college level, at a high level, at the professional level in multiple roles. So I'd say you're very qualified to answer this question about Jaden Daniels. Is it premature, or are we already in a spot where we can say this guy is in the upper echelon of quarterbacks in the NFL?
Well, you gotta be careful with that, because I think a really recent example of a guy that that maybe fit that same billing was C.J. Stroud. Coming out of his rookie year, and his second year was not nearly as pretty as his first year. Now, the Houston Texans won a playoff game last week with him playing very well, but this year for C.J. Stroud was, I think, really kind of a wake-up call, and it happens a lot in the second year for quarterbacks after they have had kind of their breakout year. They end up, there's a lot of tape out there on them now, and coaches have studied them during the offseason. They try to find things that they think might be areas of deficiency or areas where they may have struggled. They really break it down, and they study it, and they try to put these young quarterbacks in those situations as much as they possibly can. And it's very hard to replicate that success. When you have it at the level that C.J. Stroud had it at his first year last year, and obviously I think exceeded by what Jaden Daniels has done this year with the Commanders. I have zero doubt that he is the long-term franchise guy that's going to resurrect this Washington franchise, and already has in many ways. But I don't think it's going to be all roses from here on out. I think he's going to have moments over the next year or two where he's going to show his youth and his inexperience. But I also have zero doubt that he's got the mental toughness and the confidence and the stability personally to fight through any of those challenges. I do think that, very clearly through his first few years, he'll establish himself as one of the top quarterbacks in this league.
And it's already a good group of quarterbacks at the top. Plenty of them are in action this weekend as well. Steve, for the matchup for the Washington Commanders, you could argue Jaden Daniels is playing as well as anybody at the quarterback position in the NFC, maybe in the NFL, although there's some Pro Bowlers on the AFC side that probably have something to say about that with Allen, Mahomes, and Jackson. But the Washington Commanders, they go to Detroit, a team off the bye that seems very motivated to get further than last year's disappointing loss in the NFC Championship game. Is Jaden Daniels enough for the Commanders, or do they need to control game flow and maybe kind of take a page out of Notre Dame's book on Monday night, and we'll get to that momentarily, but that is try to slow this game down and keep it a tighter game where Jaden Daniels can make plays down the stretch?
Well, I think that's what they'd love to do. I think you're going into an absolute, for lack of a better term, nightmare situation when you're going into Detroit. Without a doubt, the most consistent football team all year long, explosive offensively, and they're going to be at home coming off a bye week, so they're going to be as healthy as they've been in a while. They've had a couple of weeks to really, focus on whoever their opponent might be this week. I'm sure they put a lot of time in studying the Commanders over the last 2 weeks. It's a very difficult situation, but I've always said the best defense against a great offense is to keep the ball away from them. And as we just talked about with Jaden Daniels and this offense, they've been as good as anybody in the NFL this year of those long time-consuming drives. And I think that's the only way you can keep the game close against the Detroit Lions. They don't punt much. They do not punt much at all. So when they get the ball back, there's going to generally be a pretty good understanding. They're going to come away with at least 3 and most likely 7. So you limit those possessions by keeping the ball away from them. Obviously, one of the things that Jaden Daniels has been very good at as well this year is not turning the ball over. You cannot give these guys the sudden change opportunities, the short fields that turnovers often create. And you've got to cash in when you have your opportunities. So I think, you can create a scenario where this is a pretty good matchup for the Commanders in terms of what they do best, what they've done well all year long versus what it takes to beat the Detroit Lions. I think it's still kind of a very far-fetched expectation to think it's realistic that they could come away with the win. But if they keep the game close, I can't think of anybody that would be surprised if Jaden Daniels found a way to make it happen if they have a shot at the end of the game.
Steve Burerlein, college football and NFL analyst for Compass Media Networks, a voice you've heard often this fall right here on VTRN Sports. talking some NFL playoffs. Steve, we touched on the game between the Commanders and Lions and, maybe close, but Detroit getting an edge just with all the factors that you've outlined a moment ago. A lot of people anticipate it's Philadelphia at Detroit for the NFC crown and either Baltimore or Buffalo at Kansas City for the AFC. Are you in line with that thinking, or do you sense an upset or a bit of a shock somewhere?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if there were an upset at some point. I really think that the Rams have a shot of going into Philadelphia and taking that game. The Rams are playing as well as anybody right now. They're hot. They've won a Super Bowl recent years. Matt Stafford can throw it with the best of them still, and he's healthy. This year at the end of the season, I think he's as healthy as he's been at the end of the season in several years, and that includes the Super Bowl year. So I really think that they're a team to keep an eye on. I would not be surprised if they went into Philadelphia and won that game, even though the Eagles have been playing so well lately. Their defense is playing best in the league right now, and offensively they run the ball as well as anybody. And that's what you got to do against the Rams defense. But I would not be surprised if the Rams came out on top in that game. And on the other side, I think that Buffalo Baltimore game is going to be I think the game of the year. Two of the very, very best, most athletic quarterbacks in the league on teams that have Super Bowl aspirations, that have been there, that have come into the playoffs over the last several years with those expectations and fallen short. But I think both of them have quarterbacks that are ready to make that move. I really like Buffalo. I've got a man crush on Josh Allen. I have for several years. So I think I like Buffalo with that game at home. Coming out on top. And then I really like Buffalo going into Kansas City. They've shown they can do it. People forget that they really did beat Kansas City a few years back. If it wasn't for, they took the lead with 13 seconds in that game. And then they had a defensive breakdown that allowed Kansas City with 13 seconds left to get into the field goal range. And Harrison Butker tied that game up. And of course, Buffalo didn't get the ball back because in overtime, Mahomes took him down for a touchdown. But I really believe that Buffalo won that game. If it were not for a busted defensive coverage, Buffalo would have won that game and gone on to the Super Bowl, and who knows what would have happened. And they've shown they can win in Kansas City. So I like Buffalo from the AFC side.
It'll be fun this weekend, and it may be even more fun Monday night in a game that you have a little bit of an interest in, Steve. Notre Dame and Ohio State for the national championship in college football. Big picture, as a former Notre Dame quarterback yourself, the job Marcus Freeman has done. Did you envision that, and I'll go ahead and go out on a bit of a limb here, that when Brian Kelly left, the Irish might actually upgrade with Marcus Freeman?
Well, that's a really loaded question. I would say that most of the Notre Dame faithful, when the news came out that Brian Kelly had left, initially it was shocked. But I think most people, when they really thought about it, were actually happy. It had kind of run its course, and Brian Kelly had really, I think, worn out his welcome there, and made it very clear that he didn't think he could win a national championship at Notre Dame, and with all the challenges in front of him. And now it's coming up, of course, now and saying that he always felt that you could win a championship at Notre Dame, and he's taking credit for some of the players that are there still now that he recruited. But all of us that really follow it closely really were hoping that Marcus Freeman would be that guy. We just didn't know if he was ready for that at that point. Only 38 years old, never being a head coach, a program of that magnitude. I don't think anybody could have said that they expected this to happen within his first 3 years. And here we are. And I think he's as without a doubt the most significant reason why Notre Dame is there. His consistency and the way that team plays for him and their never say die mentality. I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled it off, but I do think that the spread is accurate. They've got it, somewhere between 9 and 10, and I think that's accurate. I think Ohio State is playing better than anybody right now, and they should be a 2-score favorite. But I don't think any of us would be surprised if Notre Dame found a way to get it done. Same thing, if they keep it close and have a chance to get it done at the end, they seem to be able to make those plays to get it done. Hopefully that'll be the case on Monday night.
Reasonable to say it kind of feels similar to that Washington Commanders Detroit Lions game, and that, for the upset to happen, you want it to be kind of a lower scoring defensive slugfest and a team that knows how to win those games. might be able to pull the upset.
Yeah, if we can keep it close, and if Riley Leonard can, minimize, eliminate mistakes, no turnovers, make the plays with his feet that we can always count on. But I think to win a game of this magnitude, you've got to find a way to make some plays through the air too. And he's going to have to throw for more than 90 yards like he did against Georgia. He did throw the ball better against Penn State last week, but he's going to have to make some plays in the passing game for Notre Dame to win this game realistically. But if we can keep it close and not give them the short field again, I think we'll have a chance.
Steve Burerlein with us in the Fast Lane. You hear him often on Compass Media Networks with college football and the NFL. And Steve, generous enough to touch quite a bit on the NFL playoffs and particularly the Commanders, but even his Notre Dame Fighting Irish against Ohio State for the college football championship on Monday night. Steve, thank you very much for giving us a bit of your time today in the Fast Lane. We're grateful that you've given us this insight as well. Appreciate it and enjoy all the football action this weekend.
You got it, man. Take care and go Irish. That's all I'm going to finish with.
Indeed.
Let's get it done.
Appropriate enough for Steve Burerlein in an appropriate way for us to end that chat and shift over to talk some college hoops when we return after this here in the Fast Lane. From interest rates to everyone's personal credit history and background, everybody's in a different spot. At Feller Chevrolet, they understand that. It's why Greg Walker spoke with us and shared how Feller Chevrolet can work with you.
Well, we have multiple lenders, so everybody's different in personality and in their credit equity of what they put into a vehicle. So the different lenders have different areas that they like to go after, and we know which ones to use for the different individuals to get them the best payments possible terms that they need. As far as interest rates, everybody is saying, "Oh my goodness, they're getting so high." But if you look historically, we're really right in a rate area that traditionally for housing and cars is very competitive. We've just been so spoiled.
At Feller Chevrolet, they work with people from diverse credit backgrounds to get the right car for their needs. Stop by and see them, Main Street in Alta Vista, and visit fellersdirect.com.
Are you already done with winter? At Aquatrek Adventures, we can help you escape. Scuba classes are forming right now. We can have you ready for warm, picture-perfect beaches, clear tropical water, and blue skies in sunny Florida, Cozumel, the Cayman Islands, or even Fiji once you complete your certification. Take that first step. Call Aquatrek Adventures on Mill Lane in Salem and visit our website at aquatrekadventures.com.
To the Fast Lane.
Back to the Fast Lane indeed, and it's our pleasure to welcome into the Fast Lane somebody whose voice you heard last night on the to the Fast UTEP Liberty thrilling 72-70 game last night. Unfortunately for the Flames, it did not go in their way. On the Pete Gillen, who was on the call for CBS Sports Network, and joining us in the Fast Lane. Coach, good to be speaking with you. Hope you're well and hope you had a good time last night as well. Pete Gillen, who was on the call for CBS Sports Network, and joining us in the Fast Lane.
Too bad for the Flames, but it was
good to be speaking with you. Hope you're well and hope you had a good time last night as well.
Two baskets in the last 10, 12 seconds is unbelievable. So it was a great game. But the good thing was Liberty, they got a game tomorrow, so I think they're going to bounce back and they'll be fine tomorrow against New Mexico State. But it was a tough one last night.
So the micro part of the game, there are a number of different angles to dissect. Tie game at 70 apiece, and then UTEP after a really impressive Brett Decker the micro part of the
tie
game,
the
there are a
game.
number of different
UTEP
angles
goes
to
down
and ends up hitting the game winner with just over 2 seconds to go from Ahmad Bynum. And then Liberty really tried to get down the court. It seemed like there was a lot of chaos at the end of the game, highlighted by Talon Peter not quite understanding what the clock situation was from Ahmad Bynum. Vantage point watching it all unfold. Tried to get down the court. It seemed like there was a lot of chaos at the end of the game, highlighted by
not much time, and as you know,
not quite understanding what the clock situation was. What was your vantage point watching it all unfold?
1, too. So it's very little time. So, 2.9, I thought Richie McKay ran a great play. At the ball touches the ball right about half court, inside of half court. And he's on a run, and he let go. Unfortunately, a little too late. Even if he made the layup, he got the ball. He did not. It was like maybe 3/10 of a second too late. You know what I mean? The clock was on a run, and he should have shot it a little sooner. But it was a great play by Richie McKay. Unfortunately, it took a little too long. Peter should have pulled up, maybe taken the shot, but it happened so fast it was difficult. But he had a great game. Peter was tremendous. He had 20 points. He should have pulled up 6 from 3-point land, 5 from the foul line, 6 rebounds. So he had a great game. Peter was great, but it was a tough one because he two good teams, 20 both teams coming in. UTEP was 12-4 coming in, and Liberty, as you know, was 14-3. So two very good games.
And then there's the whole recency bias part. Liberty, their last two of their last 3 home games have been buzzer beaters that did not go their way. You were there a couple of weeks ago for that loss. And then there's the whole recency bias. And now this one against UTEP. But Liberty's had some of these which actually have gone their way. At Seattle earlier this year, they had the weeks ago 68 tip-off classic down in Charleston earlier this year that went their way as well, where they had some late game finishes and even the trip to the Virgin Islands. Is this just the cumulative factor of playing tough games and the fact that it's ultimately designed to get you ready, as Coach McKay has said often, for March Madness, and even the trip to the Virgin Islands?
Is this true? Usually they balance it out in the long run.
Of playing tough games and the fact that it's ultimately designed to get you ready, as Coach McKay has said often, for March Madness?
Richie's won a lot of them in the past, but unfortunately they had a couple, in the last 2 or 3 weeks it didn't go his way. When you have balance, and Conference USA is a balanced league. I think it's wide open in the past. Anybody can win the postseason conference tournament. So I think the Flames are in good shape. They just got to keep improving, stay healthy, and they're going to be right in the mix. I think it's wide open.
Pete Gillen with us here in the Fast Lane. He's been on the call for a couple of these Liberty Flame games already on CBS Sports Network, including the 72-70 UTEP win at Liberty this past Thursday night. Last night, I guess, for some of us who were up late, technically into the morning when we got out of Liberty Arena last night. Pete, you referenced all these points, though, for Liberty and being in close games and the value of being battle-tested. How much growth have you even seen from the Flames from last year to this year in the roster reconstruction from last year to this year, even though depth has taken a hit already?
Yeah, Richie's done a great job adding some new parts to the puzzle. Once again, Taylor Peter is really coming on right now. He was at Arkansas Tech for 3 years, and he came into the Flames this year, and he's really now coming into his own, playing great right now. And the backcourt is fabulous. Porter and Matheny have been here before a while, but they're doing very well. So they did a great job getting guys. And I'm not sure if Morphmore was here last year. I don't think so. Javon Morphmore, he's a very good player. And Owen Aquino. So they've done a good job adding pieces to the puzzle. They lost Rule Rhodey. Was it Rhodey, the young man who graduated? He's gone.
Kyle Rhodey.
So they lost. Yeah. They lost a couple of good players. So, I think the team is very good. I think they're very comparable to last year. A little better, I think, than last year. And once again, it's a step up in league. The league they're in, A-Sun's a good league, but Conference USA is, I think, a little stronger league. So they're making that adjustment. And the travel, Ed, is unbelievable. I mean, you go from Miami, Florida, Florida International to Las Cruces, New Mexico State, El Paso, Texas, Midlands. Then you got Middle Tennessee State. So you got people from all over the country. It's one of the most spread out conferences in the country, but it's happening all over. People are jumping leagues, and right now geography doesn't matter. They just go.
And Liberty so far, they've hung in there at this point in Conference USA play. Kind of, it's been the norm for them to split these games in their first, what is now 2.5 series of Conference USA action. They'll have another one on Saturday night over at Liberty Arena as Pete Gillen, who was on the call Thursday for UTEP and Liberty for CBS Sports Network, is with us in the Fast Lane. A couple other things that have kind of piqued interest from our fans at Fast Lane Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram about last night's game, and maybe another bigger picture takeaway. The Flames had a 7-point lead in the first half. At a couple of junctures in the second half, that lead was up to 6, and yet Liberty unable to hold on. It's not as alarming as the 2 weeks ago when they had the 14-point lead against Jacksonville State. Is that a concern, or is this just the nature of college basketball where there are going to be runs and there are going to be ebbs and flows?
No, just the nature of college basketball. And, teams go on runs, the 3-point shot, you make 2 or 3 in a row, boom, the lead dissipates. So that happens. It happens all over, so it's nothing to be overly concerned with. I thought it was a nip and tuck game. It was only a 2-possession difference, 2.5 possession difference with 6-7 points. So it was a nip and tuck game all the way. I think both coaches are outstanding coaches. Richie's a great coach. I think Joe Golden from UTEP is another fine coach. He was at Abilene Christian in Texas, did a good job there, brought their team to the NCAA tournament 2 of the last 3 years while he was there. So 2 outstanding coaches and fine league. And, players, it's freaky. Things happen. People get hot. Like Matheny was red hot in the first half. He had 14 points. He didn't miss a shot. The only shot he missed was a free throw. He was 5 for 5 in the second half. I don't know if it was the defense tightened up or whatever, but he didn't get as many looks, didn't score as many points. But he had a great first half. He wound up, with 17. He only had 3 in the second half. But credit the defense by UTEP. But I think that's the nature of the game, Ed. Streaks. That happens a lot today.
Pete Gillen with us here in the Fast Lane. We're touching on the Liberty Flames and some bigger picture takeaways, even in lieu of the loss last night to UTEP, 72-70 on the shot with just under 3 seconds to go from Ahmad Bynum, and Talon Peter unable to get one off for Liberty to counter that and either tie or win the game. One of those, you mentioned the phrase free throws, and it's kind of been a thorn in the side for Liberty Flames fans. What do you do if you're a coach and a team to try to transfer what Richie McKay has said, which is good free throw shooting in practice, to good free throw shooting down the stretch of games?
Yeah, it's important. The Flames do a lot of things really, really well. Shoot threes great, pass well, cut well. They're very unselfish, but free throw shooting is certainly an Achilles heel right now for Liberty. They're like 65% roughly and missed some key ones yesterday. What you got to do is you got to shoot pressure free throws and practice it. You got to practice them, and have different drills where you line up along the baseline. We call one guy out. All right, you got to make 1-on-1. All right, you make both. Okay, fine. We'll bring out somebody else. And if you miss one of them, you run a sprint. You got to put pressure on them during the game. And what we used to do, Ed, is used to film the guys in free throw practice and show the film. And players love to look at themselves. Maybe they're not following through. Maybe they're watching the flight of the ball instead of watching the rim. You got to do, put a lot of time. I'm sure Richie's doing that because Richie's a tremendous coach. But I think you got to really work on that because there can be a lot of close games, I think, in Conference USA, especially down the stretch in February into March Madness. So free throws are a big factor, so they got to continue to get better at that. But right now, that's a problem, I think, for Liberty.
Pete Gillen with us in the Fast Lane. Gillen Hoops is the Twitter account, and of course, CBS Sports Network is where you can catch his insight as he's regularly on Conference USA games, and he's seen the Liberty Flames twice already this year and generous enough to kind of give us some perspective on the Flames relative to their season in Conference USA here in the Fast Lane. Another bigger picture takeaway is we know the depth took a hit when Isaiah Enan was declared out for the year a couple of weeks ago. What's your assessment, particularly last night, of how we know Talon Peters provided a spark off the bench, but it looked like even though he didn't score a lot, Gabriel McKay made big contributions, and even Brent Decker Jr. chimed in as well.
Yeah, that's important. You lose a key guy, and he was an important part. Good rebounder, and he's getting about 10 a game, about 10 points a game roughly, and 6 rebounds. So that was a big loss for Liberty. But eventually, I thought Richie McKay did a great job. He brought, Brent Decker in at the end. All right, they needed a 3. He was there for 2 minutes and 54 seconds. He nails a 3. It was unbelievable. What a great shot for the young man. I think he's a freshman, Ed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but a big-time shot and a great move by Richie McKay, bringing in another shooter. That situation, I like the foul, when you're up 3. I said that during the game. I said, hey, you're up 3. When it gets under 12 seconds, if I'm UTEP, I'm giving a foul because, once again, Liberty shoots threes very well, and you don't want them tie. The percentages, Ed, of making a 3 are roughly 18%. Right? Roughly 1 out of 5, a little less. Right? The percentage, if you foul them, they got to make their first free throw, right? Make the second. All right. Now, they'll probably miss it on purpose. So doing it, make your first or miss the second on purpose. If your offense get the rebound and score, it's like 8%. So if you go by analytics, and the world is controlled by analytics now, especially in baseball, right? Foul every time, but they chose not to foul, and Liberty made a great shot.
Richie McKay's Liberty Flames lost last night, but you mentioned earlier in our chat, Pete, You're bullish on Liberty being able to bounce back against New Mexico State, as tough as the Aggies are and one of the favorites in Conference USA. You like Liberty's chances to bounce back Saturday night at Liberty Arena. Elaborate further if you don't mind.
I think so. I think that they're, once again, traveling tough. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think New Mexico was at FIU last night down in Miami. It's a long trip up, right? And take a bus ride. That's not easy, right? And I think they'll be determined. I think they're resilient, the Flames. So I think they'll bounce back. I think it'll be a close game again. I think it'll be a terrific game. I did the game last year when they beat New Mexico State in Lynchburg end of the season. And, New Mexico State's certainly stronger. And I think Liberty's, as good, maybe a little better with the additions. And so I think it's going to be a heck of a game. But I think they have a lot of character, the Liberty players. So I think they're going to bounce back. I'm a big fan of Richie McKay. So I think it's going to be an excellent game. But I think the Flames will come out in a real close sport game.
It should be fun for those that go over to Liberty Arena Saturday night. The atmosphere was great Thursday. Should be even better on Saturday. And somebody can attest because he was there Thursday. Pete Gillen with us in the fast lane from CBS Sports Network. Pete, you will not be there, though, on Saturday. Big day for you, getting inducted into the Fairfield University Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations on that, and we will count that as a valid reason why you don't get to be at Liberty Arena with us on Saturday night.
Well, thank you, Ed. I appreciate that. It's a great honor and a humbling honor, and there's a bunch of other people getting inducted along with me, and, different coaches and players, different sports, men and women. So I went to Fairfield many years ago. I was a walk-on it. My parents had to pay the first 2 years, and I was fortunate to earn a full scholarship my last two. So I was lucky and I was blessed. And I think it was more for my coaching. I was okay player. I played baseball and basketball, just solid. But I think we were able to coach and win about 400 games as a coach. So I think that might have been the difference. But it's a humbling experience. And as a coach, you're only as good as your players. And I was blessed to have some great players over my 30 years coaching in college basketball. So thank you, Ed, for that compliment. And once again, no man or woman's an island. You can't do it by yourself. So I was blessed to have a lot of great players with me as a coach.
Indeed, lots of them, and making an impact at Fairfield. He spent some time in our backyard at the University of Virginia, and now he's here regularly in Lynchburg because he calls some Liberty games as part of covering Conference USA for CBS Sports Network. Pete Gillen with us in the fast lane. Pete, thank you very much for your time. Grateful to be speaking with you again. Congratulations on the honor this weekend at Fairfield University, and we'd love to catch up with you again in a couple of weeks as you get a chance to observe more of the Flames in Conference USA.
Love to do it again, Ed. Thanks. My privilege being on with you on the show, and good luck tomorrow with the Flames, and have a great weekend. Thanks for having me on your show.
It's our pleasure. Pete Gillen with us here in the fast lane, joining us now once again, and it's always good when we can catch up with him. That's a good way for us to wrap it up today. When we come back on Monday, we'll react to the Flames weekend. Virginia, begrudgingly maybe, although women's basketball, big win last night, as we've already discussed. Virginia Tech, and of course, the NFL playoffs, which you can hear all of them after that Wake Virginia Tech game. Saturday, coverage of all the action starts at 1:30, leading into Wake Virginia Tech and the two NFL playoff games after that. Sunday, it's a doubleheader of NFL playoff action beginning at 2:30, right here on your home for sports, VTR and Sports. Then we're back doing it all over again starting Monday, 7 to 8 with the morning warm-up.